was an affable, outgoing man who spoke in slow, rounded sentences, quite different from the quick, incisive style of Sir George Barlow. The new Governor-General of India presided over the small gathering in his chamber with an air of great goodwill, almost brushing aside the formal deference accorded him. Commander Land had taken Merewether in to present him a few minutes before the arrival of the other conferees. "Ah, yes, Merewether. I read your report a few weeks back. Interesting. And Rob Percy's too. He thinks the peril of Bonaparte's invasion through Persia is ended, but boy Malcolm will yet attempt to see the Shah. And how was Rob when you last saw him? I heard a rumour that he was painfully wounded." "Yes, Your Excellency. He lost a leg by reason of gangrene setting in after a bullet wound." "A pity. Rob so loved to write to the hounds. He was most complimentary of your services in the mission. Said it would have failed but for your enterprise. And now, I think our party has gathered." He tinkled the bell on his desk. In the momentary interval before the secretary opened the door, Merewether wondered what reward he might receive if Percy expected a barony out of the affair. He then decided that speculation was futile. The secretary held the door as the officers filed in, led by Vice Admiral Sir Edward Pellew, Commander-in-Chief of the India Station. Merewether had met him briefly 2 years ago after the French frigate sent to supply Tipu Sultan was taken off Ceylon. He saw with astonishment that Pellew had become grossly fat, with a vast belly and pendulous jowls lapping over his collar. The sedentary life of an admiral seldom now at sea, and the rich drink and provender had betrayed the energetic Pellew. The introductions were brief. Merewether was flattered when Pellew remembered the occasion of their previous meeting and shook his hand. The others were General Sir John Stanley, commanding Fort William, Colonel Lionel Smith, commanding H.M. 65th Regiment, Major Eric Abbott, commanding the 1st Battalion of the 47th Infantry, Captain Ian Dunbar of the Royal Navy, and Captain Richard Seaton of the Bombay Marine. Chairs were already ringed about the large desk that had replaced the table Sir George had used. Merewether slid into the one at the left end of the ring beside Land. "Gentlemen," began Minto, looking left, then right, "it is a most felicitous occasion that brings together so many distinguished officers of our military forces to plan what promises to be a challenging operation." He paused to pick up a sheaf of notes on foolscap, looked at them, and continued, "It involves a place called Ras ul Khaimah, if I pronounce it correctly, a fortified town on the south coast of the Persian Gulf and the seat of Sheikh Hassan bin Rama, who commands the Juasmi pirate fleet." It was inevitable, Merewether thought bitterly. He had spent most of his first 3 years in the Marine cruising against those Arab cutthroats who delighted in executing captured infidels to the last man, and had hoped never again to enter the Persian Gulf after last autumn. Still, if the presence of the Commander-in-Chief of the India Station and the General commanding Fort William betokened anything, it promised to be a well-planned and well-mounted affair. He gave his full attention as Minto continued. "This office is in receipt of the most urgent representations from the government of the Bombay Presidency, supplemented by a report from Mr. Bruce, the political agent at Bushire, and transmitting a formal request for assistance from our ally, the Imam of Muscat, against whom this Hassan bin Rama seems to be leading the Wahhabis in revolt." Minto looked at Captain Seaton. "You had concluded a treaty with the then leaders of the Juasmis only some 2 years ago." "Yes, Your Excellency," replied Seaton, a tall, fair man with prominent nose and chin. "February the 6th, 1806, to be exact. The Wahhabis are reported to be a dissident sect of the Muslim religion."